Denver Broncos Mile High View, no commercials, no bullshit. Okay, this podcast is about what can the Broncos possibly learn from Super Bowl 54. But first, oh no, Patrick Mahomes is a god. We're all doomed. You know how I feel about quarterbacks. Okay, and that's why I started a channel with all this quarterback worshiping. I absolutely do not believe that Mahomes was in any way the MVP. But he rallied. No. No. I've always believed that. Russell Wilson is actually really a step up from Mahomes. And I think it would have been very interesting to see how that Super Bowl would have played out had Russell Wilson been behind the quarterbacking that group of players. Just out of curiosity, I just really wondered that while I was watching that. I just don't believe there would have been a quarterback drop-off during that game, which leads me to who I think the MVP was of that game. I personally believe that the MVP truly was Tyreke Hill in this because, as I said during the season, Tyreke Hill, players like him don't come along. And I know everybody's thinking, speed. Let me tell you, there are plenty of fast receivers. There's lots of them. You have to know how to run routes. You can't just have speed. And Tyreke Hill knows how to run routes, and he ran some key routes that turned out to be the key to the Kansas City overcoming themselves. Actually overcoming Patrick Mahomes. And Garoppolo could have got those passes off to him. I mean, he was wide open. The big one was the 42 or 46-yard pass that really opened up and gave the go-ahead touchdown. But Tyreke Hill, you take him off that team, and I sincerely, absolutely believe that Kansas City loses that Super Bowl and the San Francisco goes on to win it. I really believe, and I've said it during the year, that he is a difference maker. And I also want to address, people had given me, information. Yes, KC did get help. They got help along the way by the officiating crew from the playoffs into the Super Bowl. They obviously were getting, they were turning blind eyes to, some of the Chiefs' wrongdoings out there. And yes, the tuck rule is no longer going to save Brady. The NFL won't. They're moving on. And yes, if they need a tuck rule to save Mahomes, if you better believe they'll use that. You have to think about the quarterback position from the NFL point of view like Disney princesses. Disney princesses rake in revenue. They are revenue generators. So Mahomes just off field, if they can hype him up and then he wins, they can generate a whole bunch of revenue, on Patrick Mahomes himself, selling commercials. Everything he does, the NFL gets a piece of that. Plus, it's a part of branding. The NFL, Patrick Mahomes. But again, like I said, I think, in my opinion, I do still think Russell Wilson is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I know, you're shitting and you're pissing down the side of your leg, some of you. Patrick Mahomes is a god because you've been hyped, But if you see, and I've seen this with Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl, he does some really errant stuff out there. And I don't get that with, like I say, with Russell Wilson, all that errant stuff. But Patrick Mahomes is currently enjoying, and I've always said, I would always said build around these bridge quarterbacks like Case Keenum. The Kansas City Chiefs did a great job building around Alex Smith. Then they inserted Patrick Mahomes. Had the Broncos actually done that with, instead of wasting so much money on Flacco, bringing in, just keeping Case Keenum, but the idea wasn't Case Keenum. That wasn't the end game. Was building around getting all the pieces around him, saving that money instead of going after it to do exactly like Kansas City did. They did the right thing, building around Alex Smith. Build the team up around. And actually, it's kind of what San Francisco did back in their in the 80s. They built the team up and they inserted Joe Montana. As before that, Before that, San Francisco wasn't a good team, and they were able to, Bill Walsh built the team around, built the infrastructure up. And that's really the things that you need to learn about the Super Bowl. What can the Broncos do to build their team up? And I know people are saying, oh, you got to have speed at a receiver, speed. It's not just speed. Look at Edelman. He's not Tyreke Hill, but he's effective because he's an effective route runner. Steve Atwater, of all people, did a feature at it was the Senior Bowl, and it was a guy from Liberty College, and probably the Broncos could pick him up. And he said this guy was making all these top corners look foolish because he just had a knack for route running. To me, those guys are golden. So it's not just about speed. You have to find people that can run a route. KC has been blessed with they got a guy that has speed and can run routes. And I don't know if I would say Sutton is really a speed guy, in the same sense as Tyreke Hill. But, and what separates the good quarterbacks from the average ones is, if somebody, say, for instance, Edelman gets a step on somebody, they can deliver that ball with just that step of separation, but they need that step. If, in the case of Brady, he doesn't have any receivers other than Edelman who can actually get open. So it's not just the Broncos of getting speed. Broncos have to get people who know how to get open. And then it's up to Drew Lock if the guy's got a step on him, to get that ball to him. One thing we can learn from the Super Bowl is San Francisco did an absolutely perfect job of taking away Travis Kelce. He was, but the Broncos are going to have to get linebackers who can cover. They need at least one that can cover a tight end. We've seen over and over and over again the Broncos getting slaughtered by tight ends that aren't even Travis Kelce. I know I want to go back to Tyreke Hill being the MVP in my mind. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, well, what about Sammy Watkins? You take Tyreke Hill away. You really think Sammy Watkins being double-teamed is going to help Mahomes out? Sammy Watkins is a good receiver. He is. He's not the receiver he used to be. But he's decent. But if he's double-teamed, there's no way he's going to be, against the San Francisco defense, he's going to be able to do what he did. So Tyreke Hill drawing the double coverage gives Sammy Watkins that ability. Sammy Watkins wants to leave. And again, this is the thing about the Chiefs. I wouldn't be pissing down the side of your leg. I'll be very surprised if this is Patriots 2.0, another, 15 years of dominance and all this stuff. I think that was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And, players are going to come and go. And when Tyreke Hill slows down, Kelce is bottled up, and there's no Sammy Watkins to throw to. I think, Mahomes will have to improvise. And, he's great at improvising. Well, he is when he has he's got all the pieces in place. But when he doesn't have the pieces in place and he tries to improvise, he tends to get errant with his decision-making. So, but one thing both teams have, they have all good lines. The defensive line was decent, was probably for the Chiefs was the step down of all the lines, but both San Francisco and Kansas City have decent offensive lines. So that's a must. Even with all the pieces around Mahomes, that line was getting to him and he was rattled. It's not a dig on Mahomes. It happens to all the quarterbacks. So, the Broncos are going to have to invest in the defensive line. I'll get more into that as it goes on. But anyway, this is a different take than what you get out there. And that's why, I've got the membership building up, is because whether I'm right or wrong in some people's minds, that, I give you something different. Mahomes, I don't believe, was the MVP in reality. Of course, that's a great little marketing scheme. Mahomes MVP of Super Bowl. Like I say, I honestly believe you put Russell Wilson in there in that situation, that Super Bowl. I don't think the quarterback drops off like it did. And I think they just, they're a little bit more consistent. And let's face it, the end score didn't really reflect that game. Honestly, even as bad as Garoppolo did, I think had Garoppolo been on the Chiefs, he could have won that game too, as Mahomes did. Yes, but yes, Garoppolo didn't play a great game, but when you got those cast of characters around you, it certainly helps. Obviously, Garoppolo, even though he's playing bad, he doesn't have quite the firepower that Mahomes has around him. So give him credit for being able to do what he did with what he had, on offense, which he had good stuff. Plus, the Chiefs were getting away with some holding and stuff like that really could have changed the game too. So, at any rate, that's my take on what the Broncos could learn. Obviously, they're going to need linebacking to take care of tight ends. They're going to need defensive line help to put a little more pressure on Mahomes. It's not just about speed at the wide receiver. It's about receivers who can actually get open, and it's going to be up to Drew Lock to be able to hit a target who's got a step on, and that's what makes the great quarterbacks great. It's not throwing to wide open Tyreke Hills. It's great to have a Tyreke Hill on your team, but really the key to the staying power of a quarterback is, can he hit targets that have a step on a defender? That's really what makes and breaks quarterbacks, in my opinion. Separates the good ones from the average ones. So there you have it. Enjoy, and I'll be getting back, and we'll get into. I would think I was on receivers next on offense. I was going to go through wide receivers, and then I'll focus on the defense.